see your questions and to respond to them. Now, over the course of our hour together, if there's anything that you see on the screen that is of interest to you, please feel free to take a screen grab or a photo of whatever that happens to be. Now, I am going to go away, but you will still hear me. Now, as we begin, I again would like to welcome you. My name is Deirdre Mayie, and I have the privilege of leading this session today. If you do not get the chance to write down my email address or take a picture of it, don't worry, because you will see it again. But I welcome you to reach out to me later today or at any time at which you might have questions about wonders. All right, and again, I will share my email address once more. Now, as we get a start, I want you to be able to go beyond this 1 hour overview of wonders if you are so inclined to do so, and I hope that you are. On the screen, you will see a URL for a bit.ly where my colleague Greg Smith has placed a wealth of information that will help you be able to go beyond this 1 hour overview. If you are interested in training documents, if you're interested in lesson maps, scope and sequence documents, they are located on this bit.ly site. Again, if you are unable to take a picture or write down this URL along with this password, and be sure that you capture the password, I will share this once more. Now, why am I stressing preparation? Let's see. All right, I hope everyone is able to see my screen. Hopefully you see the bit.ly. I'm sorry, someone messaged that you weren't able to see it. Thank you. Again, I will share this bit.ly URL and password again, but you're probably wondering, why is preparation so very important? It's important because Wonders brings with it a wealth of resources. And being prepared means that you are better able to teach with purpose. We wanted you to be able to understand the instructional routines that you're going to find in Wonders. And so one of the things that we did is we placed the instructional routines handbook on that bit.ly site. You will also notice that if you go into the Wonders landing page and go into resources, you will see that there is a professional development link there. You will also find the instructional routines handbook there. Now, we haven't just put the instructional handbook there. We have placed videos which show teachers teaching Wonders. You will find suggested lesson plans among other items. So we want you to be ready. And for those of you who are ready to go beyond this 1 hour training, you will find what you need there. If you do not personally have login credentials, I invite you to either take a picture of or write down the access that you see here on the screen. This is a national demo site. I know that there are people here from all over the nation. Again, this is a national site. You are invited to use this site until you have your own login credentials. After you have your own login credentials, I would ask that you not use this login. Why? Because you will not be able to find your students within this demo site. You will not be able to assign any content to them. You will not be able to assess them digitally. So again, this is just for use right now. Okay. Again, I will share this information again before we finish our time together. Okay, so now that we have talked about how important it is to prepare for Wonders, let's talk a bit more about what you'll find within Wonders. Wonders is a program that was set up to help students learn through genre studies. Now, we know that students aren't necessarily familiar to learning through genre. And as teachers, you might not be familiar with teaching through genre. So one of the things that we embedded at every grade level is something called Start Smart. Start Smart is found in Unit 1, and it gives you and your students the first 2 weeks. This will be genre study number 1, to really learn the routines, the habits of learning, to learn classroom culture as it impacts Wonders. And so we would really strongly recommend that you not omit Start Smart. It's really quite useful. Now, when I mentioned that you'll be teaching through genre, you will find that there are 6 units at every grade level. And within those 6 weeks of instruction, weeks 1 through 5 will offer your students new instruction and new literature. On week 6, this is where your students will review, you'll be able to enrich, and of course, you'll be able to assess your students. There are 3 genre sets per unit. Genre sets 1 and 2 will each last for 10 days. The third genre study is shorter. It will last for 5 days. While students are in these genre studies, you're going to find that whether you're teaching in whole group or small group, the students are still going to be talking about and learning through the same content focus, the same essential question. Students will be working with the same comprehension skill and strategy, whether whole group or small group. They'll have the same phonics skills, the same vocabulary and vocabulary strategy. And of course, the same writing focus, the same focus on grammar and conventions. One of the things that Wonders does very masterfully is that Wonders makes all of the literature that students experience very meaningful. How does it do this? Well, through an essential question. The students will be given an essential question, much like the one that you see on the screen. What helps an animal survive? Students will be exposed to interactive read-alouds, which go back to inform that essential question. There will be shared reads which inform that essential question. Students will move along to an anchor text and then to a paired selection, both of which help students respond to that essential question. Furthermore, there are leveled readers which can be used in small group. And each leveled reader contains 2 texts. Also, students are able to engage in a further genre study, which will help build fluency and comprehension. Each and every one of these texts is related to the essential question. Now, while students are engaged in learning through these text sets, you're also going to be helping students develop their social emotional selves. In fact, you're going to find that the literature at grades 2 through 5 will help students to focus on very important concepts in social emotional learning. For instance, as 5th grade students are reading the story Rosa by Nikki Giovanni, the students are going to talk about how Rosa Parks showed initiative and how she was able to change the world by taking initiative. And students will be able to apply the elements that they learn about in social emotional learning in their classrooms. And that is so very important. So I've already talked to you about the types of texts that students will experience. Let's go more deeply into those texts. The first type of text that I mentioned to you was the interactive read aloud. Now, those of you who are 2nd grade teachers are going to find that your interactive read alouds look different than at grades 3 through 5. You will have in print interactive read aloud cards. These are also, by the way, available digitally. And what they will enable you to do is to read the students a story that will help them preview the genre that they're going to be studying about. It will help to preview the comprehension strategy. And the students will learn oral vocabulary, very important oral vocabulary, through these interactive read alouds. Students will further be able to respond after hearing these interactive read alouds. At grades 3 through 5, interactive read alouds exist, but they are found both in the teacher's edition and digitally. Now, if you look on the screen, you're going to notice that there is a story that teachers will read to students to help them understand what the genre will be, understand what the strategy will be. And so you might be wondering, well, how does that happen through reading this text? If you focus very, very intently on the highlighted numbers, every time a teacher gets to a highlighted number, the teacher is to stop and engage in a think aloud. This think aloud will help students understand what it is that good readers think about as they read. In effect, you will be modeling the comprehension strategy. This will be a strategy that students will employ as they go through the genre study. The next tool that will be super important will be the Reading Writing Companion. Now, the Reading Writing Companion, again, is interactive. It is available in print, but it is also available digitally. It is meant to be replaced for the life of the adoption. Now, what will students find inside of the Reading Writing Companion? First and foremost, students are going to learn how to engage in close reading through the Reading Writing Companion. Now, how does this happen? Through a close reading routine that is the brainchild of our author, Dr. Doug Fisher. Both students and you, the teacher, will see red, green, and blue tags inside of your respective manuals. So within the Reading Writing Companion, students will see these tags, and in your teacher's edition, you will see these tags. Well, what do these tags mean? When students see a red tag, this is where they're simply going to read the text to get a surface understanding of the selection. Students, of course, will work to identify some key ideas and details. They may take notes, and there is scaffolding to help the students if they need it in the form of ACT, accessing complex text. But it's through the rereading, which is signified by the green tag, that students are actually engaging in close reading. We're going to send students back into the text for a purposeful rereading. Now, here's where the analysis begins. The students are going to use rereading mini lessons, which are collaborative, in order to get to the heart of what that text truly means. Later on, the students will integrate, and this is signified by a by a blue tag. The students will take what they've read throughout the first week or even the second week, and they'll relate it to another piece of media. You'll see how this works in just a bit. Now let's dig into the Reading Writing Companion a little more deep. What helps an animal to survive? Now, as Wonders is rooted in speaking and listening, we immediately want students to be able to engage in collaborative conversation. As students are looking in their Reading Writing Companions, they will see an icon which features two heads together. You'll see it on the left side of my screen. Here is where students are going to actually discuss the essential question. Now, as students finish discussing the essential question, because the Reading Writing Companion is interactive, they are going to write their thoughts in a graphic organizer right there in the Reading Writing Companion. And for those of you who are interested in developing anchor charts, you'll be pleased to know that while Wonders does not come with already completed anchor charts, we give you the information that you need to help you with the students create anchor charts, which will be meaningful to you and the students in your class.
Adaptations. What helps an animal survive? Animals have many useful adaptations. Camouflage.
Now that was a video, the type of video that you will see as we introduce every essential question. You might have students who don't have the prior knowledge necessary to be able to chime in and really discuss the essential question to their satisfaction. These short videos will help students feel more secure and give them background that they can use to engage in the essential question. Now, as students continue through the Reading Writing Companion, I want you to note that students are able to make marginal notes inside of the Reading Writing Companion. As my students get ready to read animal adaptations for the first time, I ask them to make notes of interesting words. I want them to notice vocabulary that they will experience within the story. All of the vocabulary will be taught through context. As students read, we want them to circle and underline what's important. In this case, the students are asked to circle the sentence that states the main idea in paragraph 2. Underline details about physical traits that help animals survive. But you will notice a bit of a change. Once students go into the reread portion of the close reading lesson, they'll start to explore author's craft. In this instance, students are asked, how do the author's details about the caribou help you make an inference about what animals need to survive in the Arctic tundra? Now, I did mention that there are many lessons that the students will experience as they go into the rereading phase. Here is an example of what the comprehension skill lesson looks like. So as students get ready to learn more about main idea and detail, you're going to notice to the left that there is some information about main idea and detail. You, the teacher, will be teaching through main idea and detail. That's the I do. Notice this gradual release process. So you, the teacher, are teaching about main idea and detail. Next, you're going to see we do. Why is this we do? Because you, with the students, are going to go back into the text together and really dig into the main ideas and discuss why the details that are listed are indeed good details to have listed. What next happens is the students go to you do. Now, in most gradual release processes, the you do is an independent you. Note, this is a collaborative you. Why is it a collaborative you? Because the students together, perhaps in a partnership, a pair, or perhaps a triad, the students are going to go back into a particular page, a particular paragraph, and they are going to read, and they together are going to fill in the graphic organizer that you see here on the right side of the screen. Now, it's very important for you to note that this comprehension skill is a comprehension skill that will follow students into the subsequent text that they read. This graphic organizer will be found in the subsequent texts that students read. We have a saying in Wonders: if we read about it, we write about it. Students are engaging in analytical writing every single day in Wonders. So as you can see here, as students reread a particular part of the text, they are asked to respond to reading. How does the author use text features to explain animal adaptations and how they help animals to survive? We remind the students that grammar and writing go hand in hand. And so you will see some grammar connections on the right side of the screen. For those students who might need help getting their paragraph off the ground, you will see quick tips which help students start their sentences. Now, when it comes to grammar, there will be grammar instruction every single day. However, you will note that grammar instruction is very much tied to writing in Wonders. And if you are wondering whether students will have ample grammar practice, indeed they will. The practice book that you will receive will allow you to either print from Blackline Masters to give the students the practice that they need, or you have the option of assigning the practice online. One of the perks of assigning the content online is that it is auto-graded, which is always wonderful. This auto-grading is really quite important because the information that the system takes from your student's score is fed into something that we call the data dashboard. This data dashboard will give you information on how your students are performing, both as individuals and as a whole. We'll talk more about it in a bit. There are also wonderful games that are part of the practice. So, friends, we've talked about the reading writing companion as it relates to the shared read. While students are in the shared read, you, the teacher, are teaching and modeling. Now, notice that a change will occur after the shared read is completed. Students will move into a collection of literature, and there they will find both the anchor text and the paired selection. This is where students are going to practice and apply what you taught and modeled. As students experience the anchor text within your teacher's edition, which you will see here featured on the screen, please make note of the fact that that close reading routine that we talked about during the shared read, it also exists for the anchor text. Students will be reading, rereading, and iterating. You'll have differentiation points on your teacher's edition pages, along with accessing complex text. Now, what is accessing complex text, or ACT as we call it? If you look on the left side of the screen, you will notice that we always list what makes a text complex. So there are many things that go into text complexity. Along the bottom of your teacher edition pages, you're going to see how we help you address those complexities. There will be times where your students will need that information. There will be times where they won't. But if you need to explain or facilitate a discussion so that students can be better able to access this text, that is exactly what the ACT feature does. Now, we're still in the reading writing companion. Why? Because we want the students to continue to enjoy the scaffolding that they enjoyed within the shared read. Now, remember, students are now reading Spiders, which is an anchor text in their collection of literature. As students reread a particular portion of Spiders, here's what they are asked. How do the author's words and phrases help you to visualize how a spider eats its prey? Now, by the way, visualization is the student's comprehension strategy. So, the students are first asked to talk about this question with a partner. They are sent back into a particular page of the collection of literature. Listen up. I want you to hear how this text sounds. And by the way, I hope that nobody is having lunch right now.
Spiders eat in an unusual way. They don't chew and swallow food like you do. They drink it. First, the spider stabs its prey with its fangs and injects poisonous venom to stop it from moving. Then it dribbles digestive juices on its meal. This turns the animal's insides into soup, so the spider can slurp them out. Afterward, all that's left of the prey are empty bits of skin and some wings.
Lovely. Now, as students go back into the reading writing companion, they are asked to cite. Okay, so they first talk, then they cite. What are they citing? Well, they're given a graphic organizer which allows them to fill in the words that help them describe how the author tells them about how a spider eats. And then they are asked what it is that they visualize as they hear those words. The last step in this process is that they will then write. The author helps me visualize how a spider eats its prey by, the students will use what is in the graphic organizer to help inform this writing that they will do. Absolutely fabulous. Now, remember, there are paired texts that follow the anchor text. Students are able to annotate the paired text because we've done something ingenious. We've taken part of the text from the paired selection and we've placed it in the reading writing companion. We've done this to enable the students to be able to do as our author Doug Fisher says they should, which is read with a pencil or pen in hand. So students are asked to reread paragraph 1 and 2. Circle text evidence in paragraph 1 that tells you about Anansi's character. Students are underlined and they are boxing here, which is something that they wouldn't be able to do in the print collection of literature. So you've seen what the reading and the rereading looks like. Let's look at what the integration looks like. Integration happens after students have read multiple texts, in this case about adaptations. So the students are asked to think about the selections that they've read throughout the unit. What have you learned about adaptations that help animals survive? So the students are talking, citing, and writing, as you previously saw. But what the students are doing in this case is not reading another text and thinking across the text that they've already read and the new text. The students are given something new. In this case, there is a picture of a leafy dragon seahorse. The students are going to look at and describe how this leafy dragon seahorse uses the adaptations that they've spent so much time learning about. And so this really does help students really apply what it is that they have learned. And it's really so very exciting. Another way in which we help students integrate is through the research and inquiry activities. These happen at the end of each genre study week. They allow the students to not only work collaboratively toward researching a particular topic, but it also allows the students to present what they've learned. We know that speaking and listening skills are assessed. This is one of the ways in which you can assess speaking and listening. Now, we've talked a lot about the text that students will read. Let's take a step back and look at foundational skills, shall we? Again, let me impress upon you that at grades 2 through 5, yes, students are still learning foundational skills. I would ask that you read through the Instructional Routines Handbook. It will talk to you about the importance of foundational skills, even at the grade levels that you teach. And it will explain the approach that we take. Second grade teachers, which will help you understand what it is that you have taught, and you will see how you will go forward with teaching phonics. At grade 2, you're going to note that every single day you will begin with phonemic awareness. This is all about sound. You then move into phonics, which is about the symbol. There are numerous manipulatives that you will have for teaching foundational skills. I'll talk more about those in a bit. Of course, you will blend using some of the manipulatives that I mentioned, namely word building cards. You will always find that the students spelling words will always contain whatever pattern students are learning about in phonics. So the second graders that we're focusing on this particular week are learning long I. So all of their spelling words have long I within. Now you will notice that the spelling list that you see here on the left side of the screen is the on-level spelling list. There is also an approaching and a beyond level list that you might be interested in using. For those of you who are interested in knowing whether spelling practice is provided, yes, indeed, spelling practice is provided and it is differentiated. Now, over to the right, second grade teachers, you're going to see your high frequency words. So at second grade, students are still using the read, spell, write routine to learn high frequency words. Again, if you want more information about these routines, please consult the instructional routine handbook. Third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers, you are also going to be teaching phonics. However, the phonics that you teach is going to look and feel a little bit different from the phonics that you will see taught at second grade. Your phonics lessons will happen once during the week, and phonics and fluency will be featured together. Now, the idea behind teaching phonics at grades 3 through 5 is to help students be better able to read multisyllabic words. We've all got students who, when they see a long word, they skip it and they hope that they can figure out what the sentence says without really attacking that word that they skipped. The phonics that we teach in Wonders help students be able to attack those multisyllabic words so that they don't have to skip those words. Where fluency is concerned, become more fluent. You will find within the practice pages for comprehension and fluency, there are passages that students are able to read and subsequently answer comprehension questions about. But you might want to help teach your students how to assess each other's fluency. And this is something that they really enjoy doing. As you look on the screen, you will see on the right side at the bottom that students are able to mark the number of words that a partner has read after a minute or so. And what's interesting is that as students hear their peers read, it helps make them more cognizant of the type of reader that they themselves are. Now, we want students to be able to become more fluent, and so we have built in the practice for fluency. Now, there are also fluency assessments that are included within the program, but again, there is practice that is built in. At grades 3 through 5, you will find that your spelling words are also going to be related to your phonics skill. So as students learned about digraphs in phonics, their spelling words will all contain digraphs. So you will have daily spelling instruction, but it is tied to phonics. Another way that we help readers become better spellers is through word sorts. And these word sorts are the brainchild of Dr. Donald Bear of Words Their Way fame. We suggest that you allow students to really engage in these word sorts. Now, I mentioned that there are many different manipulatives that are available for teaching foundational skills. Some of them are going to be available in print for you second grade teachers. You will find that All of the resources that you see here on the screen are going to be available digitally. So let's say that you are a fourth grade teacher who needs an Apple card. You would find that those are online. And for those of you who like to get down and really jam out when it comes to your foundational skills, you will see that there are movement videos that are available to you. In order to help students practice their foundational skills, you will find that there are games that allow students to practice those skills. Some, not all, but some of these do feature data collection. So the students' results go into that data dashboard that I have mentioned before. But again, that is for some games and not all. And you will be able to know which games provide data and which do not. I've mentioned the practice book before. All of the practice that students need for foundational skills, grammar, spelling, phonics, vocabulary, will be available in this Blackline Master. Now, again, you have the ability to print from this Blackline Master, or of course, you can assign the content online. If you assign it online, it will be auto-graded and the results will go into the data dashboard. Many of you have been craving handwriting resources. Know that there is handwriting practice found within the practice book also. Now let's turn our focus to writing. It's really important for students to be able to engage in process writing. How do we make that a reality in Wonders 2020? Within the Reading Writing Companion, you're going to find that students write daily. Students are engaging in analytical writing, but they are also engaging in vocabulary instruction, grammar instruction, spelling instruction, things that make students better writers. So in addition to daily language arts lessons, such as the grammar lessons that you see here, the students will be able to fully flesh out a piece of writing that has been written using the writing process over 4 weeks. So as you look on my screen, notice that weeks 1 and 2 of the first genre study, students will evaluate an expert model. They will plan and they will draft, and they will do that during weeks 1 and 2 of the first genre study. As they move into the next genre study, they will revise, edit and proofread, and publish their writing. So again, the students will have 4 weeks to fully flesh out this writing. Well, how is that going to happen? Well, the first thing that we do is that we give the students an expert model. And in this expert model, we focus on some element that we want to see in the student's writing. As you look at the screen, you will notice that the students are being told what the features are of a compare and contrast essay. They are then given an expert model. Guess what the expert model is? It's actually the anchor text that students have experienced. So this anchor text, spiders, as Jeff Anderson, and those of you who know Jeff Anderson, the writing guru, he recommends that students need mentor text in order to write well. This will be our mentor text. So we're going to discuss all the finer points of this mentor text. But then as we plan, students are going to work collaboratively to brainstorm. They're going to engage in in thinking about who the audience is, they're going to make a plan. There will be graphic organizers that they will be able to use. And as they continue on, they will learn more about comparing and contrasting, and how compare and contrast text structure should find its way into the student's work. Now, there will be digital tools which students will be able to use if they would like to, and if you would like them to. As students move into drafting, we're again making a link to grammar. We're reminding students, hey, you know about linking words and you want to use them in this text that you are writing. As students revise, we want, again, to be sure that they are making grammar connections and that they are writing in a very fluent way, if you will. Note that there are both peer and teacher conferences that are built into this process. And here's something that I want you to take away. You recall how I talked about social emotional learning and how it would be taking place throughout Wonders instruction? This is another place where that social emotional learning will be really very important. As students are reading each other's writing and giving feedback, they will do so in a way that is firm, affirming, and beneficial, but never hurtful. So again, as students continue to go through the writing process, they'll have checklists that they will use. Is my work properly edited? And finally, they will publish and present their work. Remember, this is another place where listening and speaking skills can be evaluated. There are rubrics that you are able to provide to your students, and you are able to either use our rubrics as written, or of course, you are able to customize the rubrics. It's really up to you. We understand that there are some teachers among you who would like to have students do their writing digitally. Now, for those of you who are interested in this, there is a writer's notebook feature, which will allow students to go through the writing process completely, but in a digital format. It will allow you to go into your students' work, read their work. You are able to give them pointers to see, to help guide them along. And if a student is really quite in danger of doing poorly, you are able to lock the writer's notebook so that students are not able to go into the next phase of the writing process. Once students see that their work is locked, they know that a teacher conference has to occur. After that conference has occurred, the work can be unlocked and students can continue to write on. Now, for those of you who are not necessarily interested in having students complete their writing digitally, that is absolutely and totally fine. Just note that there are resources under teacher and student resources over on the right side of the screen that you are able to either print or download. They are PDFs, and they will help students do their writing through non-digital means. Now, before our time together ends, I want to talk about differentiation. Whole group in Wonders helps to inform small group. How does that happen? Well, know that in Wonders, small group supports two things in particular. First is the reading of leveled text, and second is skill acquisition. So let's talk a bit about the leveled readers. Every time students see nonfiction leveled readers in Wonders, you're going to note that we have taken one story and we've rendered it on different levels: approaching level, on level, beyond level, and ELL. You will note that if you were to compare the pages side by side, although the text is essentially giving the students the same information, while the vocabulary will be the same, the word count will be different, the syntax will be different. Indeed, these are truly leveled. Every single leveled reader has two texts inside, so there is a paired selection also. And I want to make some connections for you. When students were in the shared read, they were reading informational text. When students moved into the collection of literature, the anchor text was informational text, but the paired selection was a trickster tale. Now that we're in the leveled reader, the main selection in the leveled reader is again informational text. But guess what? The paired selection will be a trickster tale. So the students will have read across two different genres. But even though the genres were different, each selection helped to answer more deeply the essential question. Inside of your teacher's editions, you will see the pointers that you need for teaching the leveled readers at the various levels. We keep the focus on close reading in all cases. For those of you who are interested in doing so, you are able to form literature circles and you're able to extend for your gifted and talented students. You will find all of this content in your teacher's edition. Those genre passages that I mentioned previously, you could teach those inside of small group also. And they are differentiated, by the way. So students aren't always reading the genre passage on one level. Now, I talked about skills acquisition as it concerns small group. In your teacher's edition, as you're teaching during whole group, you're going to see what we call checks for success. So you'll read the question that's being asked by that check for success. For instance, can students ask and answer questions about part or all of the text? Do they reread as needed to answer their questions? If the answer is no, and it's a no that has nothing to do with their language level or language acquisition, then you will see a page to which you can go for a small group lesson. But what if that no has everything to do with the fact that my student is an English learner? There's another page number to which you can go and find small group instruction. If students are able to ask and answer questions and reread as needed to answer their questions, if you want maintenance of those skills, you'll go to the page number where the on level is listed. But of course, for students who are in need of a challenge or an extension, and they are more than capable of doing the things that the check for success mentions, you are able to go to a page number where you will find those all-important extensions. Here's an example of the approaching level small group lessons. You will notice that they cover things like comprehension, even phonics and decoding, you name it. Now, we understand that perhaps these small group lessons won't give you as much help as you might need for supporting your Tier 2 students. We have digitally made available to you the Tier 2 intervention guides. They cover topics such as comprehension, phonics at grade 2, phonemic awareness, fluency, vocabulary, and writing. You're able to get into these manuals and get fully fleshed out gradual release lessons with resources that will help you better be able to teach those students who are Tier 2. We haven't forgotten about your English learners. As you flip through your teacher's edition, you will often find purple boxes. These purple boxes allow you to really connect with how your English learners might be feeling or thinking during this lesson. So look out for those purple boxes, but also know that there is small group instruction for your English learners. We don't just lump all English learners together. We recognize that you'll have newcomers who have virtually no English ability. We know that you might have beginners, you might have intermediate or advanced students, and we have made accommodations for each of them. Now, if you're wondering what the rest of your students are doing while you are delivering small group instruction, there are certain tools that we have placed within Wonders to help you help your students. There are leveled workstations, which cover reading, writing, word study or phonics, and science or social studies. These workstations go with whatever it is your students are learning that week. So they are meaningful and they are connected. Of course, students can work in the practice book. They have online resources that they're able to work through. And of course, there are activities that students can do with leveled readers. There are myriad options for helping students be meaningfully occupied while you are with your small groups. Now, the very last thing that I will discuss with you today is, of course, assessment. Wonders has a 6-step assessment cycle that you will see in action. It begins with placement and diagnostic assessments. Now, during Start Smart, Unit 1, the first 2 weeks, you might want to use those resources to find out where your students are and where they need to go with respect to their leveling. Excuse me. You'll also note that there is formative testing for students at grades 2 through 5. This testing happens every other week. So there is no weekly assessment as such. For those of you who are interested in summative assessment, note that there are both unit assessments and benchmark assessments. The formative assessment, the progress monitoring, the unit assessment, and the benchmark assessment may be taken digitally. So if you want to administer those digitally, you certainly may. The placement and diagnostic assessments will happen paper, pencil, and in fact, face-to-face. For those of you who are interested in administering assessments online, this is what our online assessment looks like. After students have completed their online assessments, the results will be poured into the data dashboard, and the data dashboard will give you information such as how all students are performing or even how one student is performing. Now, notice, if I'm interested in supporting students who are Tier 2, those students who scored below 70%, I have some assignable resources that are on the screen. I have the ability to either print them or to assign them digitally. For students who are even beyond level, there is built-in enrichment that would be assignable. There are so many other things that I would love to have told you during our time together. But as our time together is at an end, I would like to do two things. I want to remind you of the bit.ly that I discussed earlier. Don't forget that you will need a password. I want you to be able to go in and get more information. I apologize that during this hour, I wasn't really able to go to a granular level with respect to Wonders. You will, I'm sure, have more training along the way, but this will give you enough just to get started. So again, I invite you to consult the bit.ly. I invite you to go to the Wonders site, which I gave you the login for previously. Particularly, you will want to go into resources and then select professional development. Now, I want to check the chat box. My colleague Renee has been answering some questions in the chat box. I want to see if there are any questions that I need to address. Once I've checked the chat box, I will provide you with my email address once more. And I am going to wish you a wonderful rest of the afternoon. So let's see here. Let's see. What does the 3-5 in the interactive read aloud refer to? So at grades 3 through 5, the interactive read aloud is actually a text that lives inside of the teacher's edition. Although it is also available digitally, there are no cards like you'd find at second grade. The text is in the teacher's edition. And as the teacher reads, he or she will stop periodically and use a Think Aloud cloud. And that Think Aloud cloud will help to give voice to what a reader should be thinking about as he or she reads. We're hoping to help students internalize the behaviors that good readers use as they read. I hope that answered the question. Let's see. What's the next question? We have noticed enrichment in the students' practice book, like the phonemic awareness and including grammar sheets, within which include writing together with grammar. However, the important section appears missing, such as the comprehension and draft model. So there is instruction that will be going on along with the use of the interactive read aloud. I am not sure if whether you have looked at those pages in concert with the instruction. I'm just not sure if I'm answering that question. If I'm not answering the question appropriately, please email me. Let's see. And it looks like Renee answered that question. Let's see. Is there an option to teach on a 4-day week without carrying the stories over to the next week? I'm interested in keeping a consistent week where we test every Thursday, as we do not have school on Friday. So the pacing that you see in Wonders, it is suggested pacing, but I have to be very honest. Wonders 2020 features a lot of improvements that we made on a program that we created in 2014. One of those improvements was that The students now have 2 weeks to read what they used to only have 1 week to read. Teachers found that they were pressed for time, and so we built in a pacing which allows the students to have 2 weeks to do the work. While I would say that it is possible for you to do that, the only issue is that that genre is going to continue over into the next week, and you will find that once you get to day 5, you may still be in the same resource once you come back on day 6. So we might need to discuss that a little further. I understand what you're attempting to do, but definitely let's discuss that further via email. Okay. All right. So let me provide my email address once more. Hopefully I was able to address any questions that you had. And if I didn't, please reach out to me. I hope that you got what you needed today. Again, this was just an hour for us to really scratch the surface of Wonders 2020. There's more training coming your way. There is more to know, more to note. And if you need me, please do reach out. Thank you, everyone. Renee, thank you very much for manning the chat box and answering many of the questions that came through. I hope that I was able to answer any questions that Renee wasn't able to address, but please reach out. Take care, everyone, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.